Hello, and thank you for listening. My name is Corinne, and we're going to be talking about getting into girlfriend boyfriend relationships and if it actually follows feminine principles. If you're listening to this, you are probably a grown woman or you are someone who has a brain of your own. So I'm not going to tell you what to do. God gave you free will. One thing I am going to do is I'm going to lay out the pros and the cons that I've heard from the arguments. I'm going to give you some alternate suggestions, and then you get to decide. But I always want to make sure on my channel you feel like you have information to make an informed decision. So I personally don't share my beliefs on this topic because they kind of go, I have not made concrete decisions on this, but I do want to give you all perspective. So let's go into the pros of getting into a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. The first is you get to know a person. So you really get to see, okay, how do they interact around their family, around their friends? What is their temperament when they get mad? What happens if they get laid off? How do they talk to the wait staff past, date 5? You just get to see how they generally interact with people, and that can be really helpful. You actually get to see who a person is and how they behave. If you're, driving with them and y'all are on date 4, maybe they don't do as much as they would if you are the girlfriend, right? So maybe they don't yell on date 4, but when you're the girlfriend, they yell at everybody. So you get to see how they are with other people. And I do think that that's really important. And I do think you should be able to see people in different phases of their lives. The next one is going to be you get to see if their words line up with their actions. So if they say, oh, I have a vision of doing this, that, and the third, and you've been with them for a year and they haven't done it, then you're like, okay, well, maybe their words don't line up with their actions. Or if they told you they were really into family and all about family, and they rarely go see their family or they rarely talk to their family, then you're like, okay, well, maybe this person is not really about family. That's a really good one, I think, too, is you get to see, is the picture this person is painting for me, is this actually who they are? The third thing is, it's just honestly, it's low commitment and it's easy to get out of. And I say that because you could decide to break up with your boyfriend or girlfriend today, and you could do that, and it will be the end of the relationship. You could literally do that today. Whereas in a marriage, there are more steps that you have to take. There are more people who are invested in your relationship. So if you don't bring your boyfriend or girlfriend around, some people may just assume y'all aren't together. But when you don't bring your husband or wife around, they're going to ask, oh, where are they? Are they sick? What's going on? We haven't seen such and such and so and so. So there are different levels of commitment in boyfriend-girlfriend versus marriage. And that's another reason I'm going to talk about the pros of marriage. But there is a reason why there are steps to marriage and why there is a public commitment that needs to be shown in marriage, is because it is not that easy to get out of. Most people, if you say you broke up with your boyfriend, they may say, oh, that's rough. Or, you bring another girlfriend around. They're like, oh, hey, how are you? But the tone and the mood is probably going to be very different if you say, oh, me and so are divorcing, and then you bring around another man or another woman. Because people are like, wait a minute. We put her in our minds as your wife, and so it's going to be harder to get her out of our minds as your wife. And most people are going to ask. Most people are going to ask about that person. Are you sure this is what you wanted to do? Have y'all talked it out? What are the problems? Because your family is going to be more invested in your marriage than they are your boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. Your family is going to be your friends are going to be more invested in your marriage than they are your boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. That's just how that goes. And another pro of being a girlfriend is you have consistent companionship. You can call somebody up. You can say, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I want to go here. I want to go there. Let's go do this. I saw that. You can call someone and tell them about your day. You can, whatever it is that you want to do, honestly, you have pretty intimate access to that person. This can also be a con, and I'm going to talk about that when I go into the cons list. So let's talk about the cons. The cons of a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, the first one's going to be, it typically turns on a conserved energy switch in men. So most boyfriend-girlfriend relationships is like synonymous with saying solo sexual partner. And maybe you all live together, or you spend all your time at his house, and then he has access to your body, and then he has access to your emotional labor, and he also has access to, your friend group and like the beautiful energy that you all bring. He has 100% access to you and your feminine energy. And I'm not a man, so I just cannot explain to you how much like life, money, and energy, feminine energy gives the masculine. Like, I just really can't put it into words. You really have to ask a man. But when a man has complete and total access to a woman and her feminine energy, he is building himself up off of that. Particularly when a man has access to your sexual energy, he is building himself up off of that. You may not believe me. He may deny it, but this is scientifically proven. This is why women feel depleted after relationships, and they feel like, oh my God, I gave my all to him. How could he do me like this? How could we break up? All these things. And it is very much so. You were giving him your energy, and he was taking it and using it for himself. He was taking it and using it for his health. He was taking it and using it to, better himself at work and all these different things. So it switches on conserved energy in men. There's like a literal switch in them. It is they evolved to have it because they had to do so much. They had to learn how to conserve their energy. So things that matter to us we don't interpret the world the same. So we may say, oh my gosh, well, I got one painting and now I want 2 different statues or vases to match the painting. But to him, it doesn't make sense because it's going to take more energy to go out and get the vases. Why do we need the vases? We got the picture, right? We're done. So men have a conserved energy switch. And when you become his girlfriend, you turn the switch on because you are offering him everything that you would offer him in a marriage. But here's the twist. He is not offering you everything that he would offer you in a marriage. Because in a marriage, he would have to provide for you. Most girlfriends are not being provided for, or they're not getting, assistance with anything. He would have to protect you. So it would go above and beyond what he's doing now. Like, he would literally have to be okay with losing his life for you and protecting you. He would have to be able to stay. If you had children, it would be harder to get out of. He would be, when you get married, he's telling you, when we have kids, I will be here to father the children. Every woman in a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship does not have that promise. And yes, people who are married can leave, but once again, it is harder to do. Another thing is it just takes extra time to heal. I talk about this all the time, and I say I never want to go back to breakup land, and I mean it. Breakup land is not a fun place. It's not a place I want to go. It's not it's not something I want to do. Breakup land is terrible. It's crying. It's listening to sad music. It's not wanting to go out with your friends. It's thinking that life is over. Just listen to all the sad songs. Like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take time out of my life to heal from a man who never formally committed to me, who never gave me tangible anything. He just gave me butterflies in my stomach. I just do not want to do that. I don't. I'm looking at my friends now who are going through boyfriend breakups, and I'm just reminded of how much I don't want to do it. So that time to heal, if you feel like you got extra time on your hands and you want to spend time healing over a breakup, by all means, you have to live your life, but not me. Another one is, we have actually not tried this out before in human history. There is no records of people having households, kids, finances, intermingling their families, and there being no marriage. And when I say marriage, I don't mean marriage the way it looks today. I mean whatever the marriage ceremony ritual was in that time period. So if the ceremony was jumping the broom, then that would be and that was recognized in that community. Then I mean jumping the broom. I don't just mean signing papers. I mean signing papers because that's what it is in this society, and that's what we recognize. I'm saying there's no record in human history where men and women were just trying each other out, right? Let's have kids and see how this goes. Let's get a house and see how this goes. Let's intermingle our families and let's just see how this goes. We didn't do it. Okay, we just didn't do it. So this is the first time we've ever done this in human history. And maybe there have been times, but this is the first time we have done this on such a large scale in human history. It has not been typical. Let me say that. This is not typical. If you know what a bell curve looks like, there's always outliers. So somebody could say, thousands of years ago in this small remote village, they did something similar to boyfriend-girlfriend relationships. And then I would say, okay, well, what was the rest of the world doing? Because we typically operate in norms. So we've never done this before. We've never given our bodies to men like this before. We've never given our time, energy, and attention to men like this before. And all they really had to do was cuddle us and maybe buy us dinner every couple of weeks. We've never done this. We've never had kids like this before with men who just decide to get up and say, I don't want to help those kids, right? You do that all on your own. Never have we seen this happen before like this. And the second one is most women accept boyfriend-girlfriend relationships as the next step to marriage, and that is not always the case. A lot of people who are girlfriends desire to be married. They may hint at it, they may joke about it, they may start fights about it, but eventually they will want to be married. I know this because I have had friends who say, I don't want to be married, and I have completely believed them. I've said, okay, you don't want to be married. That's your choice. And then they come back and they say, well, I broke up with my boyfriend because he didn't marry me. And I said, but you said you didn't want to be married. And they said, that's just a lie I was telling myself. That's what they said, verbatim. That is a lie I was telling myself because I just had accepted the fact that he didn't want to marry me. I knew he loved me, but he didn't want to marry me. So then I was like, okay. And then I saw more and more and more women let out a sigh of relief when their boyfriends proposed to them. So then I was like, okay, well, these women clearly want to be married. So when you're in a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship and you're in this, it's like a little waiting place. You're in the waiting room. You don't know if they're ever going to call you back. You don't know if he's ever going to propose. Most women hate that place. And that's a con of the boyfriend-girlfriend relationship is that is what it is. It is a holding place. Maybe he marries you. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he provides for you. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he takes care of the kids. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe you have to do alternative contraceptive methods because you feel like he would not be a part of the child's life. Maybe you don't. Like you have to you don't know. You're in like a very unclear place with the definitions and the terms of this relationship. This is what I have seen. This is not like a theory Corinne has. I have seen it time and time and time and time and time again. I've seen it on TV shows. Women are like, why isn't he marrying me? We've been together for 7 years, 10 years, 12 years, 5 years, 2 years, all of these things. So I think it's a con because women need to be clear about their desires and not shamed into saying out loud, I want to be married. Because I've seen it cause a lot of problems, and the man is like, well, we're happy together. I like you, you like me. We may have a kid out of this. Why do we have to get married? So most women, honestly, they want to be wives anyway. That's why I say it's a con. Just say up front, I want to be a wife. Just say up front, I want to be a wife. Another thing is, most women are exhausted and have extreme trust issues even after they get married. So it may be trust issues with that man, or it may be trust issues with other men that she's dated before. But most women who are married do not necessarily have the best past relationships with men because they were girlfriends, or because they were, sleeping around, or because they weren't being careful with who they gave their energy to. I know, so that's why a lot of women hate men. A lot of women don't hate men for the fact that they make more money than them, or, things like that. They typically say bad things about men or hate men because of the treatment they have received from intimate relationships in their lives, or from like father authority figures in their lives. So it's just, if you want to have a good relationship with a man, your spouse, your husband, I just would not advise going through multiple relationships and then getting married, because there's so many different things that come with that. The trust issues, the exhaustion. You've been left so many times, you're wondering, is he going to leave me? Even though this is your husband now, it's a lot, and I think it's too much. The last one I'm going to say is, you don't see the red flags because of sex. I talk about this all the time on my channel. When you have sex with a man, you are telling your body, we trust him. You are telling your body thinks this is your husband, because we just have not done sexually what is happening now. It has not happened at the scale we're seeing it. So your body is thinking, we love this man. This is the man for us. This is the man who's going to provide for us. This is the man who's going to protect us. This is the man who's going to raise our kids. And your body is flooding you with feel-good hormones. Your body is flooding you with hormones that are basically like shutting off the logical parts of your brain, because we adapted to stay together. We adapted to stay with our pack. We adapted to stay with our tribe. That's why a lot of people find it really hard to separate from their family, because we have adapted to stay with those people. Our body is screaming, we need these people, stay with them, right? Our body is still very much so linked to how we used to operate. So your body is saying, this is our husband. So when you break up with this man, it is like you are getting a divorce. No papers, but there's a divorce. It is like you are sending a signal to your body that your protector and your provider is gone, and your body is in panic. Because if he's not protecting and providing for us, who is? We're in danger. Alert, alert, alert. That is what your body is saying. And when you are sexual with a person, it's very hard to see red flags. Very, very, very hard to see red flags. So I'm going to give you some options. There is courting. And courting is like a very Christian, the way I've seen it. It's like a very Christian ideal, where it's also called dating with purpose or dating with intention. So that means before you start dating, you say, okay, we are going to cut everyone else off. And this phase is so we can prepare for marriage. So marriage is always in the conversation and on the table. It's not something that you have to sneak in at the end. It's not something you have to fight a man to talk about. It is literally something you go in saying, okay, we're going to go to marriage counseling. We're going to talk to our friends. We're going to talk to our family. We're going to see how each other works with finances, pre-marriage counseling. All these things are happening when you're dating with intention. And the end result of that relationship is a marriage. The end result is to come out of that phase in a marriage. And it typically does not last that long. Like I have not heard of a story of people dating with intention for 7 years, for 5 years, for 3 years. They typically date, and then they typically date each other, and then like, okay, this is where we're going. So maybe it's a year, or maybe it's a couple of months, but it does not go very long. And one thing that this can do, and also sex is typically off the table. I'm always gonna go for that. Please, ladies, take it off the table. What it does is you get that boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with, you have a partner, you have kind of that commitment, but you also are able to get that, okay, this is going to lead to marriage. And when you date with intention, you get your family involved. That's going to lead me into my second thing, is get your family involved. Do not make this decision by yourself, because when you marry someone, you're not just marrying them, you're marrying your family. And I've heard many married people say that, so that's why I can say that. You are getting everybody involved. Everybody in your family is not toxic. There are some people in your family who are good and kind-hearted, who want to see the best for you, and you need to get them involved in your mate selection process. It doesn't just need to be ooh, he gives me butterflies, he gives me the feelings. You need to get some people who love you involved, and they need to say yay or nay. And you need to really listen to them. Like I have cousins, I have uncles who I'm like, okay, if this is a man I'm serious about and we're talking about marriage, I'm full stopping it, and you need to go meet them. And it's not a go meet them to say hi. It's like a go meet them so they can ask him questions, so they can kind of interview him. Because I don't desire to be in a relationship with somebody and just choose myself. Because every wise person, every successful company has a board of directors. You need people, there's a CEO, right? You can be your own CEO of your life, and you need to have a board of directors. You need to have people who are like, okay, this is not in the best interest of you. Right? I know you may see this new shiny thing, but it actually doesn't serve you. I know you may feel this way, but these are the red flags we see. You need a board of directors. You need somebody to help you figure this out. And I have had relationships in the past where I loved him. I loved him. Mother did not like him. Friends did not like him. There was always like confusion and division. And I had to ask myself, Corinne, why? There were 2 people in my family who liked him. Maybe 3. But I had to ask myself, why is there division and confusion with this person? Why don't my friends like him? You really have to take a pause. If these are people you love and care about, and they're giving you like, I don't know about this one. And everybody is, not just your friends, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins, your play cousins, your play aunties. All these people are like we don't know about that. You need to listen. Everybody is not trying to sabotage you and be toxic. So get your family involved, and not just to, clap for you because you found somebody, but to really give you real feedback and to ask that man real questions. specifically the male family members in your life, because men respond very differently to men than they ever will to women. Another thing is rotational dating. So I have said I was rotational dating, but honestly, I was just non-committal dating people. But now I'm like starting to really get into rotational dating. So what rotational dating is, and as always, sex is off the table in any forms, is off the table. Any wifely duties, off the table. You are there to have fun, create like a fun little feminine experience, and that's it. You are not this man's shoulder to cry on. Like, it just, you keep those wife things off the table. You all can have fun and you can have relational intimacy, but it's not like that constant everyday access, because that's a lot, and that's giving away a little bit too much, in my opinion. So I'll tell you how I rotational date. That means that you just see multiple men at the same time. Once again, sex is off the table. I don't advise going over to men's houses, because that just leads to what? Sex. So sex is off the table. But you see many men at once. You're not just, because sometimes as women we can get so focused on, oh God, his eyes, and he's so tall, and his beard, and he said this to me. But when you have many men that have your attention, you're less likely to get stuck on one man. And once again, these men that you're seeing are not your husband. They do not deserve all of you. And if you feel like they deserve all of you, that is a personal choice. But I'm going to go back to, remember, at the end, you will feel exhausted. There probably will be trust issues, and you'll have to build yourself back up. And I have heard people say, oh, Corinne, well, I can only focus on one person at a time. And it's like, okay, if that's how you feel, but be very careful of how emotionally invested you get into this one person, because this person is not your husband. This man has not claimed you as his wife. So don't do over emotional investments. So those are the pros and those are the cons of being a girlfriend. Hope I shed some light on this topic. I've heard a couple people talk about it. Like I said, I am going to keep my own opinion to myself, because I haven't made a concrete one yet. But just so you can see the pros and the cons of what that is. I also want to throw in there that the marriage rate in America is like, at this point, is right around 50-50. It's either like 49-51 or the other way around. But it's like a toss-up if you get married, if you stay together. And they are attributing this to long-term partnerships prior to marriage, right? Like acting married but not being married, because they're saying that marriage is just different. Like you go through different things in different seasons, and because we're so used to when something hard pops up, we leave, that people are like, okay, well, I can just jet and I can just leave my marriage the same way I left my boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. So it's not like, even if you do get married, it's like, it's a 50-50 chance. Like you got a 50-50 shot. So for me, if I knew those numbers and I knew I had a 50-50 shot, I would try to make the most rational decision that I possibly could. And for me, that is courting, dating with intention, rotational dating, and not wanting to be a man's girlfriend for 2-3 years while he figures out if he wants to marry me. Now, if that's not your thing, that's not your thing. But as always, look it up. Ask people who are smarter than you. Ask people who are in happy, long-term relationships, marriages, because I am not, so I can't speak to what marriage really needs. Happy, long-term marriages that you would want to have, and ask them what they did, how they did it. And also remember, if they're older than you, they probably came from a different generation So factor that in. Like, how do you need to tweak your plan to make sure you create the same environment that they had? A lot of older people grew up in a time where most people were marriage minded. So it wasn't, necessarily hard to, everybody was married. So you didn't have to look around for examples. Everybody was married. Like it was out of the norm not to be married. It was out of the norm, back in the day, there wasn't 10, 12, 15-year long relationships like that. It was like it either was or it wasn't. It either was or it wasn't. So that is the video on the pros and the cons. Like I said, as always, you're going to do what you want to do. You're an adult. You're grown. But I did just want to give you some perspective. I will see you all in the next video.